untitled.
It's Untitled, baby.
Well, I was talking about what you missed because you had brought up that Rocket was listening to that music, but I was like, I need to kind of bring you up to speed on what you missed getting popcorn and stuff, and that's why I brought up the title card. So spoiler alert for everybody. If you haven't watched this and you decide to watch this, fuck it, you're gonna watch this first before watching the movie. We get that title card.
That intro slowed down so you can remember.
Yeah, it was the same title card that we've gotten the more recent ones, but instead of seeing Captain America, Iron Man, Captain America throwing the shield, the original one, this is one of that's homaged of the Guardians of the Galaxy. So you see all those moments from 1, 2, Infinity War, Endgame, Thor: Love and Thunder, but you kind of get like these different aspects, right? But it still touches on.
I'm so glad they put them in Thor: Love and Thunder.
Oh yeah, it was good. Well, they're so good at piecing everything together.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so
what happens? So they pay homage, and then after that,
it shows Rocket when he's a small raccoon, right?
Dude, I love how he's like, I'm not a raccoon, and then he finally accepts it.
Well, because he doesn't know. Like he actually doesn't know what a raccoon is and what he is. That's the whole story of Rocket, right?
Yeah. So,
like in the first one, Star-Lord calls him a raccoon, and he's like, "Oh, what?" And he calls him he's all, is that derogatory?
Yeah.
And he's like, "Well, no, but I mean, technically, is it like a trash panda?" And that's when he realizes it's kind of like derogatory in a way. And he's calling him just a raccoon, right? So they call it throughout the entirety of what we've seen as Guardians, throughout all the movies, they call him so many different things. Call him raccoon, trash panda, rabbit. Like they call him all kinds of different things. So he's kind of like when Thor calls him rabbit, he's like, rabbit? Like, what the fuck is a rabbit? You know what I mean? So like he doesn't know what he is. That's the whole premise of the thing for him.
And I like how they go along, and like you were saying, through the whole trilogy, like they have these different names, and
it's something as so simple as like towards the end of the movie when he reads that he's a raccoon, like you laughed because it's so like simple and almost like dumb, like looking at it, without looking at symbolism.
I think what really had me like at awe, and also my reaction was to cackle, was because he sees himself, he knows himself as a young raccoon, right?
No, well, he doesn't, like, he sees himself as a young animal, but he doesn't know.
Well, he doesn't know he's a raccoon. That's what I say. But he knows what he looked like. So whenever he sees
them, and he's like, that's me.
He scans everything, but he hyper focuses on to
like himself when he was younger.
Yeah, and then
he pans over to like the sign of.
Well, he's like, come on. He tries to save them, and then you guys aren't going to understand what we're talking about because we're not going to really get into the specifics of this movie. But basically, what my reaction to him finding out he's a raccoon was like, also like, I kind of was surprised that they actually put that in there.
Yeah, because the audience knows what he is.
So long.
Yeah, well, because it was like, it was, and that's.
It wasn't a priority for the franchise, but it was just such a relieving.
Well, it was
piece.
because, and it was when you look at it from this perspective, right? So we're an audience watching. We know he's a freaking raccoon, dude. He's Rocket Raccoon, right? He doesn't know this.
I love how he accepted it too.
As the climax of the trilogy happens, he finds out specifically what he is or where he comes from. It says North America, Earth, right? Earth, North America, raccoon. And it like pounds on there. And
Isn't
it's
it crazy? That's why him and Star-Lord are like super close. Have you ever thought about that? They're both from Earth.
Yeah, they're similar for sure. But so the story of the Guardians, if you look at the beginning, they know who they are, but they don't know who they are, right? So they all have these different backgrounds.
All lost souls.
Exactly. They all are a bunch of misfits that come together, form a family, and are bonded together. And as we reach the end of the trilogy, it's already been established that they're a family and that they're there for each other. But then they find themselves and realize that this family helped us find ourselves. Now we need to go on that journey. This journey as a family is there. It's said and done. Now we need to move on and find ourselves.
Yeah.
So that's why it was very necessary for them to put that in there.
Oh yeah, and I thought, like I said, it was my initial reaction was to cackle and laugh a little bit because it was like
They do something so obvious.
It was so obvious, but it was also, what's the term?
Endearing, maybe.
No, it was like a breaking a barrier. You broke the wall down,
like the fourth wall.
Yeah, you kind of just like the closure.
Mm-hmm.
It was the closure for Rocket that we've all been, because at least whenever I first watched the Guardians of the Galaxy, I'm like, why is this fucking raccoon so aggressive? And then you not only grow to love Rocket, but you also accept him when you're watching these movies and these the little projects like the Christmas one and other ones, right, that they've done in the past, and then they fit them into the Avengers, into Thor, all these. So you're getting all this Rocket, right, as a character, but you kind of just don't really know much about him. And it's not that you know how he is as a character, but you don't know his backstory, which is not what you're begging for. But also,
when you get it, you're like, I need that.
Yeah, so that's what I mean is like whenever you were watching this movie, you get that. So you got to experience Rocket's, like, his, what do they say? Like his, the fucking, his like a story. What do they call him? Like the arc story. What the fuck do you call it? That created you?
Like origin
story. Fucking don't know how I lost that word.
I was so confused at what you meant.
Yeah, I know. So I'm sorry. But anyways, like you finally get his origin story.
Yeah.
And then after that, you see why he is the way he is. And then you don't see him as Rocket as the aggressive. You see him as the leader, but was always caught up in his own, his own mess because the way he was, like trauma, right? So,
but you know that, but you don't, it like touches on it.
Yeah, but whenever, towards the end of the movie, he finally has that closure, and then you finally see him way more collected. And dude, I felt like the last battle, like when they revived him.
Dude, no.
That scene?
That scene was...
Oh my God. Hold on.
You felt the theater, like you weren't in a theater. You were in the ship and you were experiencing what was going on.
Yeah.
And I know everybody did.
Oh yeah, you definitely soaked in that moment. So like watching it, you kind of had that like, not that you want to cry, but it's just such, you know what I mean?
I know what you're saying, and it's funny that you say cry because as we're leaving the theater, Elijah was with me. Elijah's his younger brother, okay? That is the walking billboard. Yeah. So we're driving over here, and the first thing he tells me as we get in the car, like we're just left where I parked, he goes, "Did you cry?" It's the first thing he said. And I was like, "No," because I enjoyed it and I like absorbed it, but I felt the emotion, but it wasn't like a breakthrough with me.
I think what was a breakthrough was...
But he was like, I almost did. And to hear it like that, I was like, that's like he really, like they did that. Like,
yeah, they know how to reach a specific like emotion in you.
Yeah. And I think for me, it was like, I'm so analytic on absorbing as much as I can and I do try to experience all the emotional aspect, of course, but at the same time I'm analyzing it, so I kind of pocket a little of the emotion, and I'm trying to look for as much as possible.
Well, I'm glad you do that because I'm not like that. What I do, but I also don't. I'm very emotionally invested in like the current movie I'm watching. So, like my initial reaction to, he comes back, right? And they finally have this like moment with Rocket where he's like, I'm done running. And then
they turn around together with him.
And then fucking Star-Lord plays probably one of the best songs to ever enter a fight.
Dude, I will tell you,
Sleep Till Brooklyn.
dude. I will tell you this. That was probably my favorite, like, Avenger. So everybody knows the classic Avengers where they're all the six form in Avengers 2012. They form in their original six circle and they're like fighting, and they have, or like in a Age of Ultron where they do the same thing but in a way where they're mid fight. This eclipsed those. Like, this stands alone. Like, they did like that kind of fight scene where they're together and they're like in sync, but it was like he learned all the great things on all the other ones that have come in the past, and he just like raised the bar. Dude, it was crazy to see. It was so good. Like, I saw that.
I really
like,
want to play that song. Oh my God. I love that song. It's by the
Bee Gees. I'm just kidding.
No, it's no. I fucking know this.
The Bee Gees. I'm just kidding. Let me see.
The Beastie Boys. The Beastie Boys.
Is it?
Yeah.
What's the song called?
No Sleep Till Brooklyn or some shit like that. There you go. Do they show it?
No. Mm-mm.
Beastie Boys.
No, see, that was the trailer.
90% of signs of aging are caused by the sun. Discover Anthelios.
This song's so good. Like the way it starts.
What if I told you that you can use Motion Array to improve your
Is that
videos
Sin's
fast?
cousin?
For example, you can
John? Dude, it's so good.
I think what's crazy is that they didn't have like this big old conversation that what they need to do. They were getting ready to survive and leave, and Rocket's like, "I'm done running," and he turns around and everybody's like, "I'm there with
We're
you."
there with you.
You see that family
So-
moment, like it's not a coming of a family joining. They're already
Yeah,
unified.
so we can kind of update the audience of what we experienced. So
Right.
Rocket's on the brink of dying. And, you know, Star-Lord, actually, as a collective group, they all decide to save him. And they're going to do whatever it takes to do that. And
Right.
Gamora, that doesn't know she's... Yeah, it's spoiler alert, 100%. But Gamora comes back. Luis actually informed me she never died. Well, she died, but because they went back into time, they went back to 2014.
Yeah.
And
So maybe I should explain it a little bit so we don't get things fumbled.
okay,
To kind of help you. So to kind of like give you an alley oop here.
yeah, because
so,
the way I'm,
so
you're looking
I
at
think
me
it was
is
good.
You're like, you're missing some things,
Well,
partner.
well, it's kind of because I'm glad you brought that up, that we need to kind of inform them, but to kind of help you here. So time travel in Marvel is not time travel that you're thinking of a movie like Back to the Future where they go back in time.
No, it's
And that's the
basically they
same-
just boom.
No, it's like if I were to make it more complex, but understanding maybe is when you go back in time and like Back to the Future, when you alter something from 1985, it changes what happens in 2015.
Yes.
Like that, right?
Yeah.
So in Marvel, in MCU, I should say, when they went back to 2014, they went to the time period of 2014, but that was
Oh, it's a
their
different
future.
universe.
Like that was their future because that was currently
Yes.
happening, right?
Is it technically a different universe?
No, it's
so
within
it's
the same.
universe, but it's just
Yeah, it's the same reality, but them going.
But they didn't go back into time. It was destined to happen either way.
yeah,
Okay, I get it.
yeah. So basically,
Gamora.
yeah, so basically they go back to 2014. At that time, 2014 is pre-Guardians. Like when we say pre-Guardians, like I'm talking like a month or a couple weeks before Gamora crosses paths with Star-Lord, Rocket on Xandar, right? From the first one. So Gamora at the time is with Thanos, right?
Yes.
So at this, we're talking Endgame here. Thanos shows up, right, with Gamora. So this
This is all
Gamora
prior.
in Infinity War, the Gamora that we grew to love in the first two films, dies, right?
Yeah.
She dies. So in Endgame, this Gamora is pre-Guardians of the Galaxy. This is Gamora, Assassin Gamora, right?
Yeah.
So she's here but there's no relationship with the Guardians at all. So as we get to the end of Endgame, she kind of like disappears because she has no connection to the Guardians, and she kind of does her own thing, and then she slowly kind of finds herself
gets involved
to cross the paths again, because that's her destiny in a certain way. But you see in Guardians 3 that relationship that you see with Star-Lord and the rest of them create in the first one, it like it happens again.
It happens again.
But
they do it so good.
They do it so good. So like he was saying, they're kind of in a position where nowhere, if you know that head,
Yes.
that's a celestial head that they're in, right?
Yes.
It's called Nowhere. So Nowhere becomes their new home, right?
Yes.
So they're kind of just there in, it's almost like a
their safe haven almost.
yeah, it's almost like they're it's almost like the middle between chapters. They're just in Nowhere. They have a society there. The basically the survivors of Thanos, rage across the universe. So they're just there. They're literally just there. You see Star-Lord, he's drunk and he's kind of just in depression from that relationship with Gamora's gone. Because not only is she gone, but she's really here, but the relationship's just diminished. Like there's no, she doesn't experience, right? It's almost
so just so they know.
Yeah.
So they went back. So obviously 2014, Gamora's no longer the dead Gamora. She's in a different time zone, but we're still in the future of the existing stories. But anyways, before we get confused, she's alive. But Star-Lord doesn't know that because from what he knows, she died.
Well, no, he knows. He knows Endgame.
That she's... Yes,
So
yes, I know that, but I mean, like, does he know that she exists?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Because in Endgame, so in Infinity War, she dies and he goes crazy, right? It almost ends the universe, right? In Endgame, they're fighting there on the Avengers headquarters, right? With a big scene where they come together. Well, he's fighting and he's about to get killed, and Gamora comes out of nowhere and saves him. Not saving, remember?
I forgot.
And then he's like, Gamora, like the love of my life's there, like, and he doesn't understand that that's not the Gamora that he knows. For looking from his perspective, like he doesn't know that this is the Gamora that
is different.
That is different. He sees her
as what he knows.
Yeah. So he approaches him like this. Oh my God, Gamora, you're here, and he's like, who the fuck are you?
Yeah.
Right. So, but post Endgame, she's just gone. And it's depressing that not only did he lose her, that she's here.
He basically re-lost her.
Exactly.
He lost her twice.
Exactly.
So he's in full depression. But anyways.
So in other words, it was me setting the scene of where everybody's at.
Yeah.
And it was like Gilbert was saying where Rocket's listening to the music. And it's almost like a saddening song. And he's kind of reliving. He's looking back at his past in Lila, which is the otter that they do flashbacks throughout the film on.
Oh, it's so good.
And it's kind of like his love interest, right? Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like how I was saying where this arc of them as a team is already fulfilled, and they're it's not about them being the team anymore. It's about themselves as individuals, finding themselves. Yeah. So he's in that space where he's just.
And throughout this,
he's kind of reliving his trauma.
Yeah, and throughout this entire movie, every single one of them have that. Like,
yes, they have that moment.
That moment of like finding themselves, and you'll find out at the end what they decide to do.
Yeah.
But so, anyways, Star-Lord, and Gamora, and every Guardians of the Galaxy, right? Mm-hmm. Are trying to save Rocket.
Because they're in this safe spot, and Adam Warlock comes crushing into nowhere, right? Into this celestial head.
And this is where he pops in.
Is after Rocket, because that's his... So I don't know if you caught this.
That's his quest.
Well, no. So I don't know. The High Evolutionary, right?
Yes.
Great villain. was good. He was menacing for sure. I really like the High Evolutionary.
Oh yes.
Yeah. So the High Evolutionary created those people.
Yes.
The gold ones, right?
Yes.
I forget their name. It starts with an X. It's like a Xenocians or something like that.
Okay.
Anyway, he created them, but the Warlock, Adam, right? Adam being the first, right? That's where they derived that from. Adam Warlock is in a capsule, and you see this post Volume 2. It's a cut scene. It's like a end credit scene.
Yes.
And they tease Adam Warlock. So Adam Warlock in the comics is a very integral part of the Infinity Gauntlet storyline, where he's actually a big part of destroying Thanos. So when everybody saw that, including myself, I really thought he was going to be in Infinity War and be a big part of that. And they decided to kind of tuck that away and make him like, instead of being this big part of this very important character, come out of nowhere and be big for that and kind of just diminish. They're making a big story for him, right? So
They're creating.
It was so
weird. The Millers,
dude. Yeah, literally, bro.
Yeah.
The first thing I did when I saw him in the trailer was like thinking of his balls getting bit by the
Yes.
spider.
Yes.
But the High Evolutionary tells that he opens Adam Warlock's cocoon early because he finds out Rocket, which is this. When he did the experiment, they did high cerebral experimentation on him to the point where his mind was sharper and smarter than the High Evolutionaries.
Yeah.
And that's why he wants it back. That's part of the story that you'll see. So he hires Adam Warlock to come after Rocket. So you're just sitting there and you're absorbing that they're in this place and they're finding their harmony. And then he just gets hit. And everybody's like in like
Shock.
attack mode and shock and trying to figure themselves out. And Adam Warlock, because of how powerful he is, he's just taking them out one by one. But when he goes after Rocket, like he's
not
gravely
trying to-
injured
Yeah.
to the point where like he's on life support. And the whole story of Volume 3
is to revive him.
exactly is to save him.
Thank you, Luis. That was perfect way to
Yeah.
because I was like, how am I going to explain this? Because it was just like a lot happened at once.
And you're gonna see, and I'm gonna. This is me kind of giving a heads up to not only the audience but to you as well. I think the best way to kind of like reach into these different pockets is on an analytical side. You're gonna see that because of this like library I have in here, I'm gonna kind of like be really analytical on how I explain it, and then you're gonna like you're like that's exactly what I thought, and it's more of like an emotional reaction.
Yes. So
And how you interpret it, right?
exactly. So with all of that being said, they revive Rocket.
Yeah, towards the
And-
end, right? Yeah.
You've at the same time, simultaneously throughout the movie, you also get all these flashbacks into why Rocket is who he is, right?
Yes,
Because everything he's tried to endure and love has always been taken away from him.
and he's on life support, so it's like one of those things where in certain films, and they kind of interpret when you're on life support, your life flashes before your eyes.
Yeah.
It's almost like he's reliving something that the trauma that
Yeah,
he
and
went
that
through.
he's always been running away from and expressing.
Yeah,
And-
and it's also telling a story, of course, to the audience.
Oh yeah, of course. And then after all of that, and of course they have all their trials and tribulations, but we're talking about that fight scene and why it's so good.
yeah.
So everyone has finally reached a point where they have Rocket safe. All the Guardians of the Galaxy characters are all together and they can
Yeah.
leave. But there's these. They think it's the little kids that are locked up in that ship is what's bringing them back, but it really is Rocket coming to the occasion as I'm making my own decision as
Rocket.
As Rocket.
Mhm.
You know, I have this is my destiny. Like this is my story to make this decision.
And I felt a correlation because so as they're trying to revive him, I felt a correlation or a comparison with Deadpool 2. Remember when he tries killing himself
Yeah.
and he sees Vanessa and he's about to cross the threshold and she goes, "Not yet. It's not your time."
That's literally what that was.
That's what I felt, right?
Mhm.
So that kind of happens with Rocket, guys, is he's pretty much he's dead pretty much, and he sees Lila the otter again, and all of his friends that initially had their own experiments done to them at the same time by the high evolutionary, and he sees him. He's like, "Can I join you? Like, this is something that I've needed, right?" And she goes, "Yes." So he starts to approach that, and she goes, "But it's not, your time yet." So he's like, you thought you weren't meant for a story, but in reality, this was your story." And that was kind of James Gunn throwing it in everybody's face that this is all of been the main protagonist throughout every film was Rocket. So he comes back and he's already locked in. Like what's crazy is, I don't know if you notice this. He comes back, okay? And everything that we know as an audience, we know about the high evolutionary, we know about his objective, we know everything that's happened. Rocket doesn't know anything. He wakes up and he's like, "I'm good." All he knows from a conscious point is he was on Nowhere, he gets attacked, and he's like dead. Yeah. So he comes back and he's just like, okay, he knows that the other 3 Guardians are on a ship, and then he hears a high evolutionary, and you see him like have like this PTSD moment where he's like, "It's my creator." And it's kind of like super fast paced for him, but he also brings himself back into his friends and what Lila told him, like, "This is your destiny. This is your story."
Yeah.
And he goes, "No, I'm not running anymore."
Oh, it was so crazy. And then after he says that, Star-Lord immediately says, "Okay." And he puts on a song.
Yep.
And it was No Sleep Till Brooklyn.
Yeah.
And the way it just went so smooth.
I'm going to play it as you're explaining it.
Dude. So everyone turns, right? And dude, how does fucking, what's his name, break the door down?
Oh, yeah.
And then Drax breaks this door down. And this starts. And it's like, it goes silent for a while. You don't hear the music. And then it goes straight into the words. And then how smooth were they just all coordinating
they were in
this
sync.
style of, of fighting and no remorse. And
they were on a mission. And what's crazy is, like, from a film standpoint, like looking at what they accomplished there, you see Rocket turn around and everybody other than Gamora, because Gamora is foreign to this family. As Rocket turns, Star-Lord turns, everybody turns, and they're like, "We don't care if death is, that's not even in our head right now. We're with Rocket, whatever he needs," right? Yeah. And it was kind of like he's the leader. That's kind of like where they realized it before saying it at the end.
Yeah.
Right? They all turn together, and you see Gamora like roll her eyes like, "All right." And then you see, as he's opening the doors, you see this entire army collected in this hallway. And then they just stop. And then it's just, sorry to hurt everybody's ears, but it's just boom, 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 boom. And they're all in sync, like you said. They all have like these special moves, but I loved from a filmmaking standpoint is it was one take. One take. Fight scenes are legendary, like Daredevil, one take hallway fight scenes like that. That's what that was. It wasn't like they're fighting and then you see a different perspective. Like, it was one take and you just see him mow through that hallway.
Oh, it was so good.
And you hear this song and it's like, let's go.
Oh, it was so motivating. And it was just like, you haven't heard this type of music in Guardians. This was like groundbreaking stuff right here. Like, just crazy ass, just teamwork.
Oh yeah.
And just it was mind blowing. You guys definitely need to see this movie.
Definitely.
And the song and us explaining it to Brooklyn. Oh, so good.
Oh, it was so good. And it's like I explained before. James Gunn, I almost did what you did. I took your spot there. He makes the music a part of the filmmaking process rather than putting it in post and making a song try to fit the scene. It's a collective part of the film itself. So he plays it for the cast, like I was explaining earlier. and they embody that song, and they emotionally connect to the song, and they
Dude, they hit
act.
every single audience.
Dude.
First off, they go and they're like, let's get this classic rock band that every American from the 70s embraced and loved. Bro, the Beastie Boys, bro,
Oh, yeah.
were like the shit. That was like NWA before NWA. And these guys, I know a lot about the Beastie Boys, bro, because there was a point in time where I was like, dude, I love fucking classic rock.
Yeah.
And dude, they were just such a. When I'm talking about groundbreaking rock and roll music, oh, dude, the Beastie Boys killed it, and they did so good with, embracing that in the Guardians of the Galaxy and entering of all the songs that they could choose from. They go with the kick-ass Beastie Boys. Dude, have you seen the music video? It's so cool. Oh, dude, the Beastie Boys are sick as fuck. They're ahead of their time.
And what I like is, so as a Easter egg kind of person here, prior to the initial Guardians, right? Star-Lord has got his Walkman, right? And everything's about the tape. Volume 1 is the amazing what do they call it?
What are you talking about?
So
The hits?
yeah, so you know how Awesome Mix, that's what it's called. Awesome Mix Volume 1, right? Awesome Mix Volume 1 is what Star-Lord's mom gave
him
to
when he
him.
was a child.
Yeah, to him as a child. That's what he would
that
listen
was
to,
his,
right?
Like his
Then
mom's music, right?
yes, that was like their connection, right? Well, when she died, she gave him Volume 2. So at the end of Guardians 1, you see him open the gift that he never opened from when she passed.
Mm-hmm.
And he opens it in his Volume 2 and he starts to listen to it, right? So as we go on through the movies in Volume 2, Ego destroys his Walkman, right?
Yeah.
Well, he's gifted a Zune, which is Zune is like an MP3.
iPod.
Yeah, and it's an actual product, but it's not an Apple. It's a Zune,
Yeah,
right?
it's its own thing.
But it has a collection of music from like 50s to 2000s. So you see this kind of like growth in the music too, and this evolution of him going through these different genres, and they're kind of growing with it. That's why I loved at the end when he scrolls past 1990s, he goes to 2000s. It's showing
That
like
was so good.
it was them showing like we're
Homage
this
to
this
everything.
chapter's over. We're on to a new and improved chapter. It was so I was so excited when I saw them click to 2000s.
I did too. I really liked that part because they were like, we've been here before.
I
Let's
was
go to
literally
the
waiting
next
for
thing.
Oh, I love you. Ah, see.
some
No, but I was
Melly.
no, but it was like it was like, oh, this is where it's at, because it was
and the
good.
song
Like those,
that they chose too for the end.
and I
of
love
the
how
movie.
they were like, "What are your favorite artists?" That was so
Yes,
cool.
that was
at
so
the
good.
end, yeah.
He's all gotta respect the man, Garth Brooks.
Literally hasn't. There's no misses. I'm all literally,
it's
bro.
So funny because they pay respects to they give the flowers to the artist, and I feel like that's what really gets us connected to Guardians of the Galaxy is the music.
Oh yeah,
And
that
then
was
of course
Oh, yeah.
the development of characters and the humor, like the trials you go through in life. I feel like that's why Guardians is probably the best trilogy we'll ever. We won't say ever because nothing's over yet in this Marvel, saga
yeah.
or whatever you want to call it. But
As
Guardians,
of right now, it takes
it
the
takes
cakes.
the cake easy.
Yeah.
So amazing movie, guys, and this is like our initial raw reaction and
Oh yeah,
a lot of spoilers, but like we appreciate you watching and just because we went over it, we kind of just I guess chopped it up.
yeah,
We made our own remix of the movie ourselves, but
yeah. So to kind of
watch it.
yes,
Watch it. You need to watch it. I would rewatch
and
it.
I would recommend it. And I wanted to do this so bad. I wanted to watch the first and second going into the third. I wanted to do that. I didn't have a chance to. If you're planning on watching this movie, which you absolutely should, 100% recommend, watch the first and second kind of to, You don't need to, but it gives you a good experience. It's all retained in my head, so it's kind of
I
it
think
works.
we should put this in the beginning. It's like, guys, rewatch the first and second before you watch it.
Yeah.
It's not going to connect.
You're not gonna.
It's not going to be like this
What-
huge fold into why the third chapter makes sense.
I
but
will
it's
tell
just
you,
to
if you
pay
haven't seen the
homage.
first and second, you're not gonna miss
No,
what's
you're
happening.
gonna- you're-
It's a very good standalone movie, but just for the sake of Guardians fans, watch the first and second. It doesn't
Yeah,
hurt.
So good.
It doesn't hurt exactly. So, basically what was kind of brought together was that this film was really big on capitalizing on them as a unit, but then also every character finding themselves and
ultimate
having
teamwork.
a full chapter closing, everybody having closure of themselves and finding a new journey for themselves. It was so good. I don't see any other way they could have done better at all. He absolutely crushed it.
Oh, amazing.
And that's why I've said this before, and especially when it was first announced, that when James Gunn was announced as the head of DC,
Yeah,
it's
dude.
gonna be special. It's gonna be special. And this is, and I
We need
kind of was
another
touching.
Marvel segment.
Well, what I was telling you is I in the theater was Disney's biggest fault was firing James Gunn,
And this is what we're gonna do.
and that's the cliffhanger I'm gonna leave
Yes,
for you for
this
the next
is a
segment.
cliffhanger for the next segment because we can go hours on end. The movie finished at what time?
9:30, 9:45
And
after the
we're
credits.
already almost at 1 a.m. So
We're at 1 a.m.
it's 12:30. It's 12:15. But
No, 12:45. You mean?
oh my god, it's almost 1 in the morning, ladies.
It's
and
because
gentlemen.
he has his son on his wallpaper, and it like
His fat face is on there. And I love him to death. But anyways, that's a cliffhanger. Thank you for tuning in. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3.
Volume 3. Go see it.
Go see it.
Brought to you by Untitled. This is Untitled, right?
It's untitled, baby.